Hey everyone, we're
Hi
back
guys.
again with our good friend Mike. I think you've probably all seen his earlier video. He's doing such a phenomenal job testing testing Kurt's gun. Now you've made sure you added the butt pad to it, and then you it's the exact same size. It's exactly the same gun as Kurt had, correct?
Yep, that's correct. I added the butt pad with the white spacer for an overall length of 45 and 5/8 inch.
Perfect. Okay, go ahead, Lise.
So, Mike, what I was going to ask was what you were just telling Michelle about the shot that ejected, but the following one like didn't reload properly.
Yeah.
Is that what is that actually called? Like, what's the proper term for that?
So it was so I had the shell, the spent fired casing eject,
Right.
and then that second shell that's supposed to feed, it's called a misfeed or a failure to feed. It didn't stovepipe, it didn't go out the side, it just stayed at an elevated position because the bolt came back enough to eject the shell, but then when it was coming back, it didn't have enough space to pick up that second shell and push it into the chamber. If that makes sense. I know
No,
that's
it does. So is that what happened with Kurt's, or what's the difference between that and a stovepipe then?
yeah. So a stovepipe's gonna come like if you have a stovepipe, it's because your bolt came back, kicked the shell, and the shell didn't have the proper timing to fully clear the bolt, so it gets stuck between the bolt and the breech and sticks out the side of the gun,
Right.
like that, sticking out the end. No, this is just a failure to feed. Like I said, the spent casing, the fired casing ejected, but the next live round that was supposed to go into the chamber, the bolt didn't come back far enough to actually catch it and feed it up into the pipe.
Right. So,
Pipe, I'm talking all the Marine Corps slang and stuff, but yeah,
right.
into the chamber. So
So is that what we seen with Kurt's? Like,
yeah, according to the report, I mean that's how they found it. They found the spent casing that was laying on the jacket, and then it's annotated in there that the next round was a failure to feed. It didn't properly feed into the chamber, so it was stuck in limbo inside the chamber. So essentially the same thing I had happen, which like I said, I mean I didn't expect that just in the messing around like I was doing, just kind of getting some quick videos for that to happen like that. But it did, and it was kind of cool. Like I was telling Michelle, now I kind of have something that I can just do off to the side to mess with, a little side pet project like that. Okay, outside our shop here, don't mind the dirty work shirt. All right. So we've determined that this will fire unshouldered. Not every time, it has hiccups. But out of all the ways we've tried firing it so far, we haven't been able to get it to fire with any obstruction to the barrel, meaning a hand wrapped around it like Kurt's was found. And I'm just going to show that any kind of interference to the barrel will prevent ejection. So here we go. Here's the first shot. Just gripping the barrel loosely. This very loosely. Wouldn't eject. Holding my thumb over top the barrel back here as I'm holding the foregrip. Won't eject. Just resting my hand on this. It will eject. Resting my hand back here. Oh, see, right there. Right there was a stovepipe. Right there is what they're talking about in the report. It ejected the shell, but the next shell didn't cycle. So, let's go ahead and clear this. Send the next round in. We'll hold it upside down with the hand around the front of the barrel. Loosely, very loose. No eject. And for the last demonstration, We will just try this one more time. No eject.
When we were talking about, let's, I know people are really excited for you to, to start doing the testing. So can you describe sort of what you're going to test this week and give everybody an idea what we're starting with?
Yeah, I guess the first thing is going to be one of the easiest things to do in the cold, and that's just doing the 180 test. I
Perfect.
want to do the theory of, if we're discussing now that, we're seriously thinking that he was on his back, then it's,
Yeah.
a real simple test that you can do without shooting. I mean, it's just simply seeing what happens when your body loses all control at that moment. I mean, honestly, I've tried picking my brain, trying to think of a better way to do it to where we could actually fire some live rounds. And I still have a few ideas I might mess with, but just for the 180 test, I mean, it's just as simple as seeing what happens when
Yeah.
your left hand's clutching that barrel, your right hand loses all control, and your arms no control. And see, I want to see if, which I don't see it happening at all, but just doing that 180 test. That's one of the easier ones to start with. And then I think one of the next things to start messing with is just real quickly going over how the obstruction to the barrel, meaning your hand being on that barrel, will not allow it to eject that shell casing whatsoever. That's a real easy test, and it's it's flawless test. I mean, I already know the results, and I tried it a couple different ways. I tried it with my hand with a glove on it because I didn't know. I didn't want to so much get any of the gas coming out of that compensator get me in the meat of the hand or something. But I tried it with that and just loosely putting my hand up towards there. I tried it with my hand back like roughly 1.5 to 2 inches back from the compensator and just squeezing the trigger off. And it's just it's not ejecting. I mean, it does not like that. When there's an obstruction to the barrel, it completely takes away from that long recoil process. Takes the energy out of the barrel, you know what I mean? It's not able to fully come back and cycle. It's hitting resistance.
So you tested I mean, we talked about this a little bit last time, so we don't need to go into it, again, but you've been playing around with this gun now for a few weeks. There is no universe where it is too hot for you to hold, where you would
no,
get burned. Okay.
even the other day, when I fired it the other day, right off the bat, I let my 20-year-old shoot it because he wanted to shoot it, since I got it. So finally I let him shoot it. And I think I loaded it up 2 more times and shot it. And even then, just to even put your hand on the barrel. I mean, now granted, it was, in the low teens here. But I mean, if it was going to get hot, and that was, like I said, roughly 15 rounds, it would have been hot, and it wasn't. It's
Mike, how about the shell?
No way one shell is going to heat that barrel.
How about the ejected shell? Is it hot when it's ejected?
No, not really. Shotgun shell hulls, as they're called, or casings. Once they're spit out, you can pick them up right off the ground. Whereas if you're shooting something like an AR-10 that has 308 caliber bullets coming out the end of it, one of them come right out of the chamber and flying out the ejection port and land on the ground, and you pick it up real quick, it's going to burn you. Like, they get hot, but you're talking brass, and really hot gases, sending bullets thousands of feet per second. So yeah, the shotgun hull, you can pick them right up off the ground and it wouldn't burn you. No. Nope.
Okay, we had a few people ask that if the shell would be hot right after being shot. I mean, but in the official narrative, there would have been no reason for him to be picking up the hot shell anyways to burn his finger.
After he was dead?
No, they're like, how do we know he didn't burn his finger on the shell after he was ejected?
Yeah.
You didn't snap on it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one was clever.
Now, we know where Kurt's hand is kind of on the gun, but
Mhm.
what if it had been on the compensator? Could that have caused a burn in the webbing of his fingers?
Yeah, devil's advocate. I mean, I think what I'm gonna test this theory. I'm guessing that that first slot right out the compensator from where the muzzle ends and that compensator starts, I'm willing to bet that first port, well, the first top and bottom ports of that compensator, I'm willing to bet that it probably could. And I mean, if you think about the burn where it was, what roughly here, am I correct?
Yep.
I mean, if you look at the
Yeah.
photos, I mean, if you're, right there's that first port. And if you're holding it right here, I mean, it's a possibility. And I like without
Hmm.
doing it to myself, I figured the best way to try it is maybe like wrap it in parchment paper or just standard notebook paper and take a couple shots and see what happens. Like if that gas has enough pressure to come out and burst the paper first and foremost, which I'm
Mm.
guessing it will. But just if it's hot, you'll know because that paper will have embers on the end of it. It'll be red. So
Well,
that's
then,
That's
something I'd like to do.
yeah. That's an
yeah,
interesting
we should
thing. I mean,
definitely add that.
absolutely. And we know that our medical examiner, our first one said it wasn't a burn. We're having a second medical examiner look at the autopsy. So I think they're going to come back with the same conclusion that that is not a burn mark.
Yeah.
But I think we should check it just to be sure. Now, in the photos, can we tell that Kurt's hand was not on the compensator?
I now I'm gonna have that
I think we
what's
should
that
check
called?
that too. It
Yeah,
just
I
that's
popped
was
into my
wondering
head.
that
So,
too. Like,
yeah.
you guys just made me think of it. If he was holding the compensator, wouldn't more of his hand be burnt
Yes.
from just
And
the,
wouldn't it have blown his hand right? Like if he's holding that compensator with all that, with it being ejected, would his hand still
yeah.
be around the
yeah, with
gun?
the gases escaping, you
Yeah,
would think.
yeah,
I mean, Kurt's right hand evidently fell straight down to the ground and all this, and this hand was still clutching a barrel. I mean,
yeah.
The
just
right
that barrel
hand.
being in the hand alone is kind of yeah. I mean, one of them deals where it's like, it's kind of weird. I don't think, but not out of the possibility. I'm sure. But yeah, I mean, and it's like with me shooting it like that, just messing around. I mean, when that thing comes back, and this is keeping my hand like an inch and a half, 2 inches from the end of it, with my bare hand, safety first. But yeah, I mean, it comes back enough to like smack your hand, and you can feel. I mean, not enough to hurt. Um, and then, like I said, when I was doing it with my hand actually really close to the compensator, I was wearing a glove. So, um,
That
but
was
I mean,
sorry.
no, 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 go ahead.
One other thing I was wondering, is there any way, like when you're hitting the ejection port, like when you have to manually eject it, is there
Yeah.
any way that he could have caught his skin in that somehow to cause a wound?
Mm,
I'm just
yeah,
trying to
I
think
mean
of
that's the same thing
anything.
called yeah, that's like what they call bolt bite and stuff, like that's a big military thing, getting your fingers bit by certain weapon systems. But yeah, I mean the only way I mean the way this shot just going by the design on it, I mean the only way that it's going to I guess what I'll say is this: it chances are if there was going to be injuries, it'd be on the tips of your fingers because that's what's gonna, or your thumb maybe. I mean, that's what's gonna go inside there. And when that bolt comes forward, it's gonna chomp your finger pretty good. But I mean, I could if that was to happen with him, I mean, he wasn't, um, he was a skinnier guy, so I don't feel what I mean? It just didn't have the surface area to actually catch. So, but if there was damage from the bolt coming forward, then yeah, it'd most likely be tips of your fingers, thumb.
Right.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
Just figured
yeah.
I'd ask.
No,
That's just
that's
something I
cool.
thought about today. Wasn't sure if that
Yeah,
was even a possibility.
yeah.
So when do we expect? Did you already ask this, Michelle?
About the testing?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we were sort of discussing that what the next, what the next week's tests are sort of going to entail. And then, we had mentioned that you have a good camera setup now that's going to be positioned, three of them, and then you're going to do some slow-mo testing as well. And
Yep.
so explain a little bit to why we want to get I'm sorry, do we just call them dummies? Like with the gel in their
Forensic
head?
gels. Yeah.
Forensic gels.
Look
Okay,
at
could you
them,
explain? Yeah, okay, perfect. So explain a little bit about that. That would be great.
yeah. So the reason we're getting them, I know I talked to Lisa just the other day, and I said, hey, it'd probably be a good idea because I know they sell them and you can get them used for a decent price, but those just the headless torso mannequins, um, but something that's smaller frame than I am, because I'm not going to make a good double for Kurt. But I'd like to be able to position the shotgun over a skinnier frame torso and have that ballistic head to not only get the trajectory right, but in finding that trajectory, as it shows in the autopsy, also that kind of is going to show us about where that shotgun was angled to get that, or how far the head had to
Right.
be back to get that angle.
Yeah.
But the more I look at that, and the more, and like I said, until I actually get my hands on one and get to test it. But I mean, the more and more I look at it, it's like, man, like that, to get that angle, you almost had to have your head way back, to. So I don't know. Like I said, but I think that's going to be. But we don't have the ballistic heads yet. So in the meantime, like I was saying earlier, I want to try to get the 180 testing done, just to see if we can get the shotgun to do a 180 on us. And that's just simply, and that's going to be non-firing exercises, tests, just to see if once your body loses all control, when that shotgun hits, does it roll? Does it do
Right.
anything other than just hit on its side and lay there?
Yeah.
Um, So I think that's going to be a real easy test to get going off the ground and like get it rolling. And then I'd like to start messing with some of the, I guess, possible scenarios of this shotgun firing by somebody else's hand, working on the recoil, interfering with the recoil, I should say, to cause what we had there earlier in the week where we had an ejection, but we had one, that was a failure to feed.
Right.
So just some little tests to get her going off the ground, because I think a lot of the real thought, the ones that are going to have to be well thought out are the ones that we are going to be using the ballistic gelatin skulls, because it's just I don't want to waste them by messing up something and being like, oh shit, like there's $100 bill gone. Just so
I'm
yeah,
going to
so
add some screenshots of the ballistic dummies and everything. We're going to edit them in just so everybody can see what we're trying to get. And we might add a donation link or something if anybody wants to pitch in and help out. We'll add that in the description.
Yep, that'd be great.
Perfect. How much do you think it's all going to cost us, Mike, for and you were getting a
Well,
custom one made as well, right? With the jaw and
yeah.
everything? Yeah.
So I want to get I think three of just ballistic gel heads, and those are basically they're basically just a big solid mass of gel,
Hmm.
just to do the angle theory
Oh,
kind of work.
perfect.
You know what I mean? Trying to determine about where that shotgun had to be, how far the head had to be back to get that angle. Um, so those will be, really quick, expendable tests, but that's going to really help us out as far as figuring the angle in the shotgun. Once we get that testing figured out, yes, I want to get the actual ballistic um, heads that have the skull inside of it. I'm guessing they're 3D printed or something. I'm not sure
Hmm.
100%. but basically it has fake blood and fake brain matter in them. And yes, we're talking to the guy right now about trying to get a custom mold made to where there is access to the upper palate, about an inch back from the teeth, half inch back to the teeth, because the ones that are out there now that exist, they don't have a movable mandible. It's fixed. So that would defeat the whole purpose of trying to get blood and back spatter testing, because you'd already be in there. Like, I was laughing and telling Lisa, like, in there with a dribble tool and shit, trying to do some hillbilly stuff and make it, nah.
If anybody could have pulled it off, you could have.
I figured just have it set up right the way it's supposed to be, and go from there. But yeah, that's some of the testing. And like I said, just a lot of it. I think a lot of it boils down. No matter what testing we do, I'm still, like I said, I'm still kind of caught up on this this barrel being gripped by hand, and it actually even being able to eject in the first place. I mean, I think that's kind of one of the bigger tests that I really want to spend some time on, because we got to show people that it's not without, it's not out of the realm that, like I said, that this shotgun could not have ejected a shell the way they're saying. I mean, I know that's a bold claim to make, but just from my own personal experience now and actually getting some time with this gun to shoot, I think that's going to be a real big eye opener, because that's really putting a hole in their case, man. Whenever they're saying that there was a cadaveric spasm and that his hand was found still gripping the, okay, that's great, but how did that shotgun eject if that was the case? Like that, you know what I mean? I think a lot of people are going to be surprised by how that all goes down once we get the actual filming done and everybody can see.
During that one shot, you barely had your hand even around it. Like,
yeah,
you know what I mean? You weren't tight around it at all, barely touching it.
Yeah, I was shooting with the weight of my hand only, not my arm, just the weight of my hand on top of the barrel. And, and that's not even gripping the barrel, and it, had that failure to feed. So I don't know. Like I said, I'm really looking forward to getting into this, though, getting some of these shots and getting video done and getting it out there for people to see. I think it's going to be really important.
So let's put
game changer.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that's okay. So let's just put a point on this. First, we have the probability that this gun spun a 180. So this gun magically spun a 180 and landed tiny top side up on Kurt's chest. Okay, so we've got that. The second thing we have is that, and then, because it ejected to his left. And then the second thing that we have is that it wouldn't have ejected at all. So not only do we now have the first kind of, magic bullet theory of the spin, now we add to that, it spun and it ejected. So now this is at the point where you go, okay,
while being gripped, in this magical grip.
Exactly.
It to do all that. And that's, like I said, there's so many elements to the story that if the shoe were on the other foot, if this would have been a pump shotgun and we would have never found the shell casing, or this gun would have just been found laying on its side, I don't think I would have ever gave it a second thought. You know what I mean? Like, I never looked at it and been like, oh, that's weird. You know what I mean? But once you find out the gun is semi-automatic and that it spits shells out a certain direction, but no, it was on another. And then you start doing the 180 and the cadaveric spasm, and like you throw them together, and it's just, look, man, it could happen. I guess in some big world of coincidences, it could happen. But it's just too much. You know what I mean? For somebody that deals with guns a lot, and just it just seems really, really weird to me, fishy.
And then we can add it. Yeah, exactly. Then we add it to the list of other coincidences that he signed the suicide note with his full name, that the lights were all of a sudden off. He turned the lights off before he used the shotgun. I mean,
the other day, that was pretty, I was like, no way.
The lights huge.
Well, and I asked Joe, and I'm going to I'll ask the security guard who was there, because he was in there. He would have been there at night. Joe certainly confirmed that there was electricity hooked up and that there were lights in it. So.
Not to interrupt, did he ever say anything about whether the water worked in that sink?
He has not said that, but I think it must have, right? If they were growing
If
pot? Is it to be
I'd say
assumed that the
then.
water works? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I was just curious. That was something that was never
Yeah, it's
answered. I mean,
never been confirmed
No,
though.
yeah, yeah. So I think, again, I think we're going to when we talk about probabilities, if you were a betting man, Mike, and the probability of both of those things happening, $10 million, are you betting that that's not possible, or are you going maybe it could happen?
man, that's tough. Like I said, I mean, it just, I, I would say that the chances of all three of them happening, man, like 99.5% of me says no. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like bet that money. And that leaves 0.5%, doubt. But I mean, I think we'll find out here soon enough, from our own testing that we can throw ask me about that bet then and give me $10 million and we'll talk.
Yeah.
But nah, just off the top of my head, I don't find all three scenarios going down like that. All not at one time,
I
just don't
think
see
with the
it.
gun stuff on top of everything else, it's just like so obvious that
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
this
I
is
mean, yeah, if his left hand would have been off that barrel, I mean, there's so many things that could have went that way, and I would have never. I probably wouldn't be talking to you guys right now. You know what I mean? I've been like, oh no, but here we are because there's unknowns, man. I mean, it's not just open and shut book, man. There's something in there that's just not right. This doesn't sit right with me. I mean, so I really hope, once we can start actually getting this out here for people to see with their own two eyes, I think it's gonna blow some minds, man. I really
I think it's going
do.
to change a lot of minds.
Yeah, yeah. I
Like
mean,
I've noticed just in the last couple of months, like there's a lot more people coming to this side of this debate, like that'll say, I've always believed it was suicide, but one of this video or that video has convinced me to look into everything else. I think that a lot of people, I'm sorry, I can't even talk tonight. A lot of people are finally waking up and looking at the facts of this rather
yeah,
than
just
this
writing it
shit
off.
that's written in books. Yeah.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, we have a whole 30 years of narrative, between the media and what Courtney wanted us to believe about Kurt. So, I think fortunately we've had some friends come forward and tell us a little bit more about who Kurt was. And then, again, we go, okay, like now let's look at the actual science of this. And I feel like the SPD is going to rue the day they let those pictures out in 2014 because that's going to ultimately be the undoing, their undoing in this case. So, um
Yeah.
yeah.
Mike's probably just shaking in his boots right now.
Oh,
This is it.
yes, yes. Yes, exactly. You guys, there are so many M names in this. Mike, Michael. I mean, there's so many.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The popular
How
name.
often do I have to ask you, Michelle? Like, wait, who is that again?
Yes, exactly right. Yeah. So perfect. So we have a really good game plan going forward. We'll post this on Patreon, of course, first, and then we'll see, people usually have questions, and Mike, you're so gracious to come in and answer questions. And hopefully some of the questions have gotten you thinking, and I'm going to test this and I'm going to test that. And then just so people know, we do have someone who's going to be replicating what Mike has done. So Mike's doing all the initial testing, and then that person's just going to copy and make sure it does the same thing on his gun. So again, we're going to have really, really good evidence, coming out of this. So it's
Yes,
exciting. Perfect. Okay. Well, thank you so much. And we will go ahead and get this up and see what everyone has to say. And then hopefully, very soon after we'll, see how your tests actually go, get a break in the weather and get some testing done.
I'm
Yes,
sure
most
we'll
definitely.
update before then, right? Did you hear me?
No, sorry, go ahead.
I said we might have another update before the
Oh,
testing's finished.
absolutely. Yes, I'm sure we
Yeah.
will. Yeah, absolutely. Perfect. All right. Thank you so
All
much,
right,
guys.
guys.
We'll
Sorry
talk
No
to you
I'm
problem.
soon.
late.
No, that's okay. Bye.
All right, see y'all later.
Bye.
Bye.